Need to fix it. Hang on here. Oh. And here we go.
Started off as a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Aquilini.
No, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself. I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin. Would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm gonna have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
Yes, it is. And welcome to the Hockey Podcast. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, the Hockey Podcast, where we sit at 100 and the Marc-Andre Fleury Gaffe of subscribers. We'll get into that as well. And, of course, you can subscribe to the audio wherever you get your podcast. After this, we have a fresh new line combination. This has not been a threesome that we have had before. I do not believe. No, we have never. It was Tyler and Sean. We've had Devin and Sean, but we have never had Devin and Tyler together before.
There's a first time for everything.
Absolutely is.
Gotta get the chemistry going.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Devin's always so deflated when I'm not on to, make things more interesting for him. Irritate him.
Poke the bear a little bit,
Yeah.
I'm good to poke back today. This will be fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
How are things?
I'm doing better than Tyler's hair is. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. This is it's just not staying. I don't know. You just have those days where it's working out of the shower, and then other days it's like this.
This is why I wear a hat, because then we don't. Yeah, I don't have these types of problems. So
I don't have a choice to have one of those problems.
What's that? That's true.
I have zero choice in the matter.
My hair is all over the place, so I just the hat saves us all from the wildness. Well, speaking of wildness, we've got a lot to talk about with this game. If anyone has any comments or questions, please feel free to chime in there, and we'll get to them. As I think probably one of the more interesting games in the in the semifinals, however we title this, I think that was last night. It certainly wasn't super interesting in the first two periods when the Montreal Canadiens only had about 9 shots in the first two periods, but were able to hang in with a 1-1 tie. Then Vegas scores from a defenseman again. It feels like Alex Pietrangelo is involved in pretty much every goal with Vegas. And then we had the tie, and then Fleury with the tribute to Mike Smith. Very nice tribute, I thought. Just a beautiful sort of Mike Smith type of play. Allows Josh Anderson to score. And then the overtime goal, which was bereft before, to a pretty, I'm going to say, we'll talk about this as we go on here, but a pretty inexcusable miss high stick, I think, from the official. I'm sure Tyler's going to may correct me on that. And the Montreal Canadiens are 2 wins away from going to the Stanley Cup final. All of you folks that thought this was going to go 5 games.
Well, why would you take that on the last point there? Why would you discount the Habs after what they did in the first 2 rounds? Like I don't know. People just maybe it's the old the North Division's weak thing. Well, I mean, I believed in that, and Montreal is just kind of blowing that to pieces. So let's start with the just the fact that the Habs are 2 wins away. I think last night is another example of It'd be easy to say, well, Carey Price is carrying this team and it's Carey Price. Well, no, I think it's a quintessential team effort with Montreal. Whether it's him stepping up or somebody else, there always seems to be somebody there to get it done for them. And last night it was Josh Anderson with 2 huge goals. I like Kelly Rudy's post-game analysis last night about what happened on the Fleury goal. He just didn't get to the puck soon enough, and it bounced off the boards just before he was about to play it. Then it got into his feet, and then it was kind of panic mode from there. And unfortunately, he's not in front of the net, and the Canadiens swarmed him, and Josh Anderson put it into the open cage. And boy, oh boy, if Kevin, you talked about it last night. Is that going to be the turning point in the series? Well, at this point, I would flag it as the turning point of the series, and now Vegas is chasing.
Just before, I just wanted to maybe I want to ask you this from Tyler's perspective as a Canucks fan. Does this remind you of last year?
Not a little bit, I guess. I don't know. I mean, Mark Bergevin and the Habs, I mean, he was so active in the offseason and during the season that, all his actions were, indicate that he's going for it this year and sees an opportunity. Whereas the Canucks, they sort of just arrived in the bubble and started winning, and suddenly people are like, wow, maybe we have something here. So in some ways, yes, but in other ways, no. A lot of these guys on the Canadiens roster have have a lot of playoff experience, whereas the Canucks last year with the bubble there, a little bit of playoff experience with some of the group, but a lot of them, into it for the first time.
Fair. Devin?
Yeah, as far as the game went, they capitalized on their chances, and talk about misplays. Eric Stahl behind the net to Waugh in front. That's another gift for him, and good on Waugh to get that up because he's pretty damn close to Price, and so that takes a little bit of skill. So it went both ways realistically, and even the Pietrangelo goal, I feel like that's one Carey Price has to have. Coming across the top of the slot there and going far side could be a bit tricky for sure, but I don't even know if he was screened that much. So I feel like that was a miscue on Carey Price as well. So unfortunately, that did happen. But man, the hockey gods are doing something. They want Montreal to win. It looks like it, especially with a couple of those plays. And that was an amazing tap down by Anderson in the overtime, and beautiful play by Byron to cross over and kind of just little crossover to screw up the goalie a little bit, get the goalie going the other way. And man, how electric was that?
That was awesome. I mean, Byron had Fleury sucked right out of his shorts there with the fake shot there, and then as you say, Devin, the pass, really just had to really tuck it across to Anderson and for a tap in, and then Josh just going full tilt and hits the boards. A little worried about that. I've seen that a few times around here.
Yeah.
Guys are going hard, and they score, but you might hurt yourself in the process. So and then to see 3,500 fans in attendance at the Bell Center, really, it's something more. It's another step towards normal life again, and a little more atmosphere in the building.
Yeah, that I think that helped. I think a lot. And it was loud for 3,500. I thought that crowd was pretty tremendous for most of the night. I mean, the officiating didn't help that in some ways, or may have helped it. Either way, one of the two. But I also like can we just talk about Vegas for a moment here? This forward group of Smith, Stone, Marchessault, Steven. I know Stevenson's out.
That's a huge loss.
It is a huge. I know it's a huge loss, but for them not to have one goal in this series yet, I mean, give credit to Carey Price and his pants because they've made some saves, but you need more from this forward group. And this has been sort of my concern with Vegas all along is I think that, they have the experience and they seem like a really complete team, but they've also have let teams, and I this was my suspicion, is they let teams hang around a little too long.
Well, it just seems like they kind of are hot and cold offensively too. I mean, we saw that last year where they were lucky to get past the Canucks in some ways because they had a hell of a time beating Thatcher Demko, and it was in their heads. I mean, even Coach DeBoer admitted that. And then when they then they have to play 7 games against the Canucks. Then they're up against Dallas, and they're getting goalied there too. And that was the end of their run. So is it happening again?
For me, it's just shades of the Maple Leafs in the first round. When if your top players aren't being your top players and you're relying on the depth for the majority of the series, man, it's probably not going to work out for you 9 times out of 10 or 8 times out of 10. So they definitely need to get going. And Kevin, you've talked about it from the very beginning. The lack of killer instinct that they have is very apparent, and they need to wake up. Give some support to Fleury. Like, as weird as that sounds, because there's no run support within their pressure and making sure that they do capitalize on those chances. There were a few saves where Carey Price was spectacular. Another cross crease pass over and another big pad save reaching over. So they need to find a way to do it. And yes, they're dominating, or they dominated last night at least. But man, you got to score.
Yeah, and I guess that's part of the problem is the Fleury Gaffe isn't that big of a deal if it's 3-1, which it probably if you're a Vegas Golden Knight fan, you can make the argument that it should have been. But see after the third period, I want to look here. Also, it was shots on goal 45-27 overall. So Vegas had their opportunities, but they're not getting production from their top players. But I mean, their defense has been their defense was where they're getting most of their points from. And then with Fleury, okay, the Gaffe, to the Canadiens' credit on that though is that should have been an icing. Because if it was Josh Anderson, it was Anderson that beat out the icing that created that for the opportunity too. So had that not have happened, that would have been an icing, and then it's back in the Canadiens' territory. So, so to credit that, but Golden Knights defense, I think they're stepping up. I mean, Brayden McNabb. Sorry, Joel, you and I are going to have to disagree because he thought, and maybe Tyler, you disagree. Maybe you, or I don't know what side you're on, but I thought that McNabb hit on Suzuki was a clean, perfect hit. And I watched, and because I was concerned how Suzuki landed, is if it was like head on ice, I always get concerned about that. But he landed on his shoulder. So that was a really perfect hit there by Brayden McNabb, and that should not have been called a penalty, in my opinion.
I think it just depends what angle you're seeing it from, and that's usually the case when we debate headshots or dirty hits or whatever. It looks okay from one angle, looks horrible from another. I think that's just another example of that. Really fast. I don't know. Do you want to get into the high sticking missed call?
Yeah, let's do that.
I mean, that one's a little more, well, not a little more, quite a lot more clear cut. However, depending on the positioning of the officials at the time, it's one that's fairly easy to miss, might be across the ice. At the end of the day, though, I mean, Corey Perry, and I'm not a Corey Perry guy, but, I mean, he had his nose cracked open with that stick. I mean, it's got to be a double minor, and to miss it entirely is just after a pretty shaky performance from the refs throughout the game to that point already, it's just here we go again. And it's just such a shame that we're at this stage of the season, the semifinals, the hockey's being played at such a great high level, and we're constantly talking about the officiating every night over something. And, I feel like I'm a broken record on Twitter talking about how people need to just get used to it because it's not going to get better anytime soon. In fact, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. But I don't know. We still got a round and a half to go here. What are we going to see in the Stanley Cup final? That might be a topic of discussion that sort of taints the quality of the hockey. I don't know. It's very concerning. I mean, to see something like that missed is very, very concerning.
I think my frustration, though, too. Sorry, Devin, did I interrupt you?
No, you're good. You're good.
My frustration, I think, from my perspective, is okay. You don't call that, but if Anderson didn't score in overtime, I was about to tweet this too. We would probably see some chintzy, tripping interference, little hooking call be called a little bit later to give somebody a power play. And that's the frustrating part is they seem to let go the major stuff and they will go ticky tack on the minor stuff and they'll throw their whistle away and all of a sudden something at some point clicks that they need to call a penalty.
Yeah. Well, we saw that 2 nights ago in the Lightning Islanders game. I mean, there was I would say a not tightly officiated game, and then late you get a penalty. Was it Pellick? I can't remember who it was. It was a fairly soft interference call. Yeah, and it's just plucked out of kind of random. Like we haven't called one in a while. We better call one here. Like, just drives everybody nuts. And there is more and more, fairly strong open media commentary about that being a problem. Years ago when I refereed here, very quickly, just a guy senior to me in the senior hockey refereeing circles once described me and my realm of control in officiating a game, and maybe there's something to that with NHL referees where they feel like, if too much of the game has passed or they haven't called very many penalties, that their realm of control is not where it's supposed to be. And, we can only take guesses here as to what sort of directives they're given, so I won't go on about that for too long, but it certainly seems like they are under direction not to be totally hands off about it. And then you get this kind of randomness with the calls.
Well, yeah, there should be some sort of consistency within that, and especially since these are "quote unquote" the best refs in the world, you would think that they would understand how to officiate a playoff game. And so, what if you're hands off? So, what if there's no penalties the entire game? That shows that the competitiveness and that they are staying within the players are staying within that realm of gameplay, and that's totally fine, is it not? Because if they keep on doing all this stupid shit, like the microscope just keeps on getting worse and worse and worse. But they really do need to find a way to just let them play, call a penalty, and stay consistent within that if the penalty does need to be called. And the other thing that's baffles me is the fact that something big like that where there's blood everywhere was completely missed.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing that's been pointed out as well is that I think I'd have to relook at the NHL rule book, but if it's like the Hockey Canada rule book, I mean, something that constitutes a double minor like that is something where at the next stoppage, the linesman could come over and inform the referee. But when have you ever seen that happen in the NHL? I mean, this is where the ego gets in the way, right? Like the linesmen don't want to undermine the referees, and the referees aren't interested in hearing from some JFL, as we call them, just an effing linesman, about a penalty call. Okay,
never heard that before. That's awesome.
I've never heard this before.
JFLs, yeah. So the egos get in the way of getting the call right, and that's what that's I think part of the issue there last night as well.
Well, shouldn't they be working as a team?
Yeah,
right.
Well, you'd think so, but it didn't happen there, guys. I mean, you can look, you can say with credibility, 4 guys missed it last night. Somebody had to have that.
Can I just toss us back just to the Islander Tampa Bay game, the Braden Point goal, or the Braden Point crash into Varlamov? I mean, that is a situation. It's not that it's my frustration wasn't that they got the call wrong. It's the fact that the 4 officials on the ice didn't take the time to actually discuss what actually happened and make a determination. The referee made the call like that, and we moved on. And it's just like, why do you have 4 people on the ice if you're not going to communicate together? We expect our hockey teams to communicate. Yeah. Should we not expect the same from the referee and the linesman?
Yeah, and I mean, in baseball, the umpires get together when they have to. In football, it's definitely a team effort in how they officiate games, and hockey is a different culture in that regard, apparently.
I would think that they would be scared for their jobs and the notoriety of who they are as a person or as a referee. That's the only thing I can think of. And so if you're going to be egotistical about it, then that's all you're thinking about is your own job and not actually doing the proper call and do it justice. Because that Braden Point crashed into the net to Varlamov, that was blatantly pushed by the defenseman, whoever that was.
Was it Pellick?
I think it might have been Pellick.
Yeah. I think that's the part that gets really, that's the part that's frustrating. And sure, the NHL, I guess, okay, the NHL is going to fine everybody that complains about the officiating, but they don't put the officiating in front of the media. They never have to answer a question. And that, let's be clear, that's across pro sports. That's not NHL only. But I think at some point the NHL has to figure this out, because I mean, we've got ESPN and you've got TBS, TNT that's going to be carrying games next year. You're going to be attracting a new audience. I'm not sure that fans are going to be super excited when you're seeing this type of officiating. I'm not sure that this attracts new fans into the game. I mean, you could argue, I guess my counter argument in my head already is, well, there's no good officiating in baseball. There's no good officiating in basketball, but still, I mean,
well, to me, the reason why it's poor is something it goes beyond just what the NHL can do at the amateur levels of many sports. Officiating is getting to be a thinner and thinner pool of talent. Kids are not sticking with it through the tough times when they're 13 or 14 and they're doing peewee games and they're getting screamed at by parents and stuff. They're not progressing past that. There are guys that are and ladies that are, but it's not as many as it used to be. And so then the trickle down or trickle up effect, however you want to describe it, you get to that NHL level, and when they're trying to bring in new guys, there just isn't as much there to pick from. And then, you can keep your senior officials on longer, but then the realities of father time set in where it's harder for them to keep up out there. Eventually, they have to go. They're not going to stay there anymore. And once an experienced guy, like whenever it was that Bill McCreary retired, Hall of Famer, that experience was lost, and the net result for NHL officiating is that it's not as good. And the players wanted him doing all the big games, and they haven't seemed to really find anybody else since then that's been of that kind of status, right? That trust level with the players. So the NHL is trying to do some things. They're trying to find some guys that had minor league careers and convert them into referees. I think currently there's like in the officiating ranks of the NHL right now, there's 8 that had some kind of a pro hockey career prior to becoming NHL refs. I think 1 that actually did play in the NHL at some point in the past. But that it's been pointed out to me on Twitter as well. That's created some issues, some side effect issues with that, because there's those guys are getting the opportunities, and others that have been grinding it out their entire lives are being passed over. And so when they see that happen, they just give up. And so now you're kind of back where you started. You're back to thinning the talent pool.
What about Wes McCauley? Is he not on that?
I think he's a guy that had some kind of minor league pro hockey experience. Yeah.
But fans love Wes McCauley. Do the players not?
Yeah, I think with the players polls, he's consistently named the best referee. But does he get every call right? No. Does he miss calls? Yes. Why is he deemed the best referee? Well, I think a lot of it's just that he's personable, and that's important too. That's something I struggled with early in my career, was not seen as very personable, and didn't matter, how many calls were right or wrong. It was just people didn't like it. So I think in that regard, I think Wes is, his personality and the fact that he looks like he's having fun out there and still really on top of things and consistently getting the calls right helps. But he's not perfect either. And if he's the best of what they have, then even at this stage when you got 2 series going on and you need, I don't know, like 10 officials for each series or something like that. I mean, there's still some question marks there.
Well, I also wonder too, because I mean the other thing is the length of the game, and to me, it doesn't matter if the game goes a little bit longer if you get the call right. It's not that I'm not upset that officials are missing calls, because I think that's going to happen. That's like, we're human, right? Yeah. But I think it's the fact that, like, on major situations where you do need a conversation to clear things up, that isn't happening. And I think that's partly on the officials, and I think it's partly with the NHL saying, we need to move this game along because it's going to take too long. I'd rather make sure we get the call right.
That is the biggest thing, is making sure you get the call right, but not taking too long. But what was it was the I can't remember. It was right before the playoffs. They I believe it was a Calgary Flames game, and they took forever or maybe it was a Toronto game. They took forever to get a very blatant call figured out, which, I respect and understand why they did that, because you do want to get the call right. But at the same time, it's like, well, it's cut and dry right then and there. Actually, no, it was in the playoffs. It was a Toronto Montreal series playoffs where Bergevin challenged a goal for goaltender interference, and it clearly wasn't. But that one took almost 3 to 4 minutes, because they were wondering. This is my assumption, is that they were wondering what is he challenging here? What is he looking at?
Yeah. And I mean, he would have explained that to the referee, but we never got that at home watching, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, another one, Kevin, there was, I think, a game 2 of the Tampa Islanders series. There were 7 guys on the ice, like clear cut. You got Trotz and his assistant holding up the iPad, wondering WTF about the too many men on the ice. And, if it's about getting the call right, well, geez, we review so much other stuff. That's a non-discretionary call, too many men on the ice. Why can't that one be subject to the video as well, right? I mean, that one hurts if you're Barry Trotz.
I wouldn't be surprised if they review that again, very similar to the Matt Duchene offside that happened during the regular season there. And Tyler, what does WTF stand for?
Well played.
We're not
Devin.
going there. We're not going there. We're running a clean show here, Devin, whether you like it or not.
I've already swore, so I don't know if you noticed that.
Missed it.
Well, you gave us the soft version, I think. I don't think it was the F word. It was the S word. And you at least got past 22 minutes or so, I think, before it.
Yeah, it was well done.
Slipped out there.
Yeah. I'd rather have those too many men on the ice calls like that be reviewed than the offside calls. That, to me, I think, like, some of those, like, that are really like this close, like, those can see my fingers, like, it just feels, I don't know, that I'd rather have, but that's, I guess, a topic for another time. But to get back to this game, or do we need to continue with officiating?
No.
Okay.
No. Well, like I said earlier, I mean, it's a shame that it's become like this, where, the quality of the hockey is overshadowed by the poor quality of the officiating, and it's every game, it seems like.
Yeah, well, let's get back to the game then, and let's take this from the Montreal side. Here's another thing that was missed with Montreal last night. No Dominic Ducharme. Mm-hmm. We don't know how long he's out for. Luke Richardson takes over the bench. You've got Jeff Petrie was still, what did Joel call him yesterday? I can't remember. But he's starting to look like an Avenger. He's starting to look like an Avengers villain. You've got, and he's got both hands injured. Just they're so gritty, but I bring this to the Canucks part just for a quick second. I mean, every time I'm thinking that Tyler Toffoli is going to score, Canucks Twitter is going to blow up again and again and again. We've had that conversation. But what has surprised me is that the Canucks fans haven't blown up much about Cole Caulfield.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's, he's only really, burst onto the scene relatively recently. So I think there's something to say about that. But also the fans are still really excited about Vasily Podkolzin. So, and we'll see how that turns out next year when he ultimately gets a chance. But Cole Caulfield, yeah. I mean, we were commenting offline here earlier. I mean, Kevin and I were at that draft in Vancouver a couple of years ago, and we kept expecting to hear his name called, and then finally Montreal gets him. But it was, I thought he was one that the Canucks would definitely be interested in, and then we heard Podkolzin, and then that was a big surprise for me. Kevin remembers, and but based on what we've seen since then, and Vasily's World Junior performance at Edmonton last Christmas, there, he could turn out to be quite good as well. So we'll see. But yeah, Caulfield, I think it's the old issue, smaller guy, and some teams were reluctant to take him for that reason.
See, and the other thing is that how is he going to weather next year when teams start game planning for him and understand his game? Look at Johnny Gaudreau. He came out with fire under his ass, and he played really well. And then he had a bit of a slump because teams started understanding that he just wound up and wanted to deke through everybody through the neutral zone and then go in for a good scoring chance. And that's what separates good players to great players, is that they are able to make that next step and make an adjustment to their game to make themselves successful. So before we get all hot and bothered about whether or not they should have taken Cole Caulfield, wait till you see him for the next few years and see if he can adjust, because teams will game plan for him. And on the opposite side, we have no idea what Podkolzin's going to be doing here in the NHL. He's highly touted, yes, but until you actually do it, you haven't done it yet. So
That's right.
You really need to temper expectations, and we do live in a universe where Twitter and instant reaction is
right. Yeah.
It's a sure thing, but overall, you just got to make sure that you look. Take a step back. Let's watch him for a few years, and then we can have this debate.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing too is Caulfield's really only played 20-ish games this year, where everybody else is in the 70 game mark. His legs are fresh. He's probably one of the freshest players on the ice right now. That being said, I mean, he's got a nose for the net. He's certainly got some skill. But you're right. Next year is going to be a very interesting, because you're going to have hopefully an 82 game season, and he's going to not only play the North Division, he's going to be having to travel across the league. He's going to have to play the Washingtons, the Pittsburghs, the Islanders of the world, some heavy teams, and it's not going to be as easy for Cole Caulfield to score.
Mm-hmm. Or he could just light it up. You never know. You never know. Yeah. But because he does have that skill, how fast and how accurate that shot was when he scored last night, that's a world-class goal.
Yeah. From the other thing and maybe this is I wonder if this is a little hot take, but I wonder if at some point in Vegas's world, they regret giving up Nick Suzuki. I know you get Max Pacioretty. It is a win-win, but I look up that middle of that ice, and man, could they use Nick Suzuki, especially without a Chandler Stevenson there.
It's true. Once again, it's about what they had at the moment of that trade. It's not about they're in win now mode, right? And Nick Suzuki is going to be at that point. You didn't know what he was going to be. You didn't know how long he was going to take. You knew that he was a good prospect, but you're getting a for sure 25, 30 goal scorer in Pacioretty every year, pretty much. And that's one thing that they're missing right now is, and that was one thing that was questionable about that team, was the fact that they couldn't really score goals, even, didn't have that perennial goal scorer. So I think at that point in time, they took the gamble by letting Suzuki go, and you get Max Pacioretty, who, like I said, is a sniper. It's very similar to the whole conversation. Oh my God, yes, Sean, I'm calling you out. The Noah Dobson trade for the first rounder for Hamonic, because at that point Calgary, that's what Calgary needed, was a gritty defenseman, because the defensive core wasn't quite where they wanted to be, and Noah Dobson probably will be a very, very good player for the New York Islanders going forward here, and probably quarterback their power play for the next decade. But at that time, you make that gamble, right?
Yeah, that's fair. I'm just curious about that. I think it's because for me, I don't like, as well as Vegas has been. I think that I think there's some things that they probably could have done better, but who knows? This series isn't over. I said at the beginning this is going 7. There's nothing that makes me believe that this is not going 7. So at this particular point, but I do think the Canadians have some momentum for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and the confidence is just sky high right now, just because it's, like we were talking about at the beginning, it's not just one guy. Yeah, although yes, Carey Price a big part of their success, but it's not just him. It's a full team effort, and there seems to be a new hero every night emerging for the Canadians.
Yep. Yeah. A couple comments that we have here. Back to our the biggest gaffe ever. Carey Fraser's missing Gretzky.
Well, in Leafs land, sure, but
well, that was a pretty.
I mean, that was yeah. I mean that one. Carey, he still kind of makes excuses for it, but I don't know. It's a bit presumptuous that, had that call been made, the Leafs would have won. Everybody sort of makes that assumption. There's no automatics there, guys. I know it. Everybody laments it, but I think we got to get off the idea that it's an automatic if that call's made.
Okay, yeah, that is. I mean, you would have had to have some set of something to make that call one way or the other. That's a tough. I watched that. I remember watching that game. Mm-hmm. It's like you're taking Wayne Gretzky off the ice in overtime in Los Angeles.
In that era of hockey, I mean, it just wasn't going to happen, right?
Yeah.
I mean, now, I mean, totally. You'd expect that to be called now.
Yeah. Guy Mercer with the comment, I've been watching hockey games for more than 50 years. I've never saw this kind of referee bias the last 3 games. I never thought the league would be playing this dirty. I don't think that this is an issue of WWE Earl Hebner refereeing. I just think it's what Tyler has been saying. I think it's just quality of officiating.
Yeah, I don't think it's bias either. I think it's just been poor. They just haven't done a good job.
And I wouldn't say it's the league in general. Yes, the league is employing these referees, but I think Tyler said it best at the beginning. It has to do with ego, and you got to set that aside and figure out what's best for the game, not for yourself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. My final question on this game specifically is: has Carey Price just walked it down for goaltender for Canada?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Well,
I think it was his job to lose in the first place, but boy, he's really letting everybody know who's the best goalie there right now.
And let alone Fleury with the missed gaffes, like this isn't the only one that he's done. He at the beginning of the game 1, exact same thing, dumped the puck in. It could have gotten in the back of net easily enough.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm the Canadians, I just keep doing it because he's stubborn enough that he's going to continue to play it. So.
Well, I think it's, I saw some reference to it. I think it was Michael Farber on Twitter last night was making a reference to his misplay in the 2004 World Junior Championship. You might remember in the gold medal game, the own goal. And I'm going to see if I can find it. But it is it in his head? Right?
It has to be.
Like is it like the golfer with the water right in front of him and it's in his head and then the mistake happens? Like, I just, you have to wonder because he's just like if you're going to come out of the net and play the puck, there is no room for reluctance or uncertainty. It has to be out of the net, clean, crisp, decisive, back in the net. And Marc-Andre Fleury struggled with that throughout his career.
Well, if he definitely has, and he said it. Is it in his head? Absolutely, it is. It cannot. Mm-hmm. It can't be. It can't not be in his head, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that the psychology is there, and that's one of the things that really detrimented him from being a very a better goaltender than he has been, just because of his mental struggles. Let alone not just with that, but just in general.
This is the one you're referring to, right?
Yeah, I was going to send it to you there. Yeah. So Marc-Andre Fleury there. Yeah, Michael calling him a prince of a guy, and had told Michael that the play there in the World Juniors left him reluctant to handle the puck for years, and Michael suspects that the gaff last night will leave a scar with Flower, and I don't know. He's got to flush it quick because they're trailing in this series, and they don't need the next one per se. But if they go down 3-1, I don't know if Vegas is coming back.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. Let's just quickly touch on Tampa Bay Islanders. If there's anything you wanted to bring up on that, I guess for me, one of the things that is very clearly coming out here is, as impressive as the Islanders are in their team play, I think one of their, and we will do off-season plans for everybody, but I think one of their off-season focuses, they need a little bit more skill up front.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they definitely do. You can't be relying on Matt Barzal to try and do everything. They do have a pretty complete team overall, but they are missing that up-end talent. And one thing that I don't think is talked about enough is the how they are missing their captain in Anders Lee. Talk about an emotional leader. He has that skill and that determination in front of the net. So that is definitely has been a big loss for them. So don't discount that. But the craziest thing about the playoffs is you never know what's going to happen, right? So they could come back and surprise everybody. But as of right now, Tampa Bay just looks like they're just a bit of a step ahead, and they do have that top end skill within up and down their lineup. Colton, the new kid on the block, I call him the new Cirelli. He's definitely come out as well to be a very good player, and those are the type of players that you really, if you see them shine like they are right now, like the Cirellis and Bryce Colton. Ross Colton. Ross. I'm so good with first names.
Yes, Levin.
Yes. Those are the type of players that you are looking for to shine within the playoffs, and they definitely have.
I mean, I just wanted to comment on third round playoff games at Nassau Coliseum, and the stars are out. Jimmy Fallon was in the house for Game 3, amongst others, and not the biggest of crowds in the U.S. buildings that we've seen throughout these playoffs, but probably the most hostile. Yeah, even put it ahead of Vegas. I mean, that was. Every time something happened and it wasn't a positive for the Islanders, the fans were out giving it to the refs, and that makes it fun. It translated well on TV, so that it was nice in that regard. But to Tampa's credit, they got an early goal, they took the crowd out of it, and they kept it under control the rest of the way.
Yeah. I just to jump back quickly to Montreal Vegas for a second. I wonder Game 6. I'm wondering if they start to just increase that crowd a little bit. I mean, there's the COVID. I think in Canada we're being we're being as cautious as possible for the most part, but there's also the hockey pressure too. I wouldn't be surprised if we see if it's 4,500 to 5,000 for Game 6.
Well, one thing that was pointed out on Twitter by somebody, I can't remember, but you have a limit of 3,500 fans. So what's happening? You've got like thousands more outside the Bell Center cramming around, and it's outside, and some people are using the masks, and some are maybe fully vaccinated or partially vaccinated. But I mean, if you don't allow the crowd in the building, you just get the crowd somewhere else. Yeah. You're not going to stop fandom at this time of year with your team this far into it.
Nope. No, you're not going to. Yeah, absolutely not. Let's jump to the Selke Award, won by Alexander Barkov, which I'm not upset about. I think that I'm happy he won that. I think it's about time that he's gotten the recognition that he deserved. Patrice Bergeron finished second. Leon Draisaitl got votes.
Yes.
As did Connor McDavid, actually got a vote. A third place vote for Selke.
Yeah. Well, I think at some point we're going to get the full disclosure on who voted for who, but were you watching Oilers games or?
Yeah, good on Barkov. Very, very happy for him. But Well, when I think of Leon Draisaitl, I don't think of him as a real 200-foot player, or as Berkey calls it now, 3-zone player overall. And yeah, I don't know. It to me, yeah, that's a little ridiculous. And I'm sure that the majority of those votes came from just north of Calgary here.
Yeah, and Red Deer. Yeah, Red Deer and up. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's the other part of this is maybe, you're going to give McDavid the heart, and you want to give Draisaitl something, but the Selke is not that award. It's not the Selke. Sorry.
No.
I mean, it's just amazing, voting for best defensive forward when Draisaitl, his forward defending kind of comes and goes. It's whenever he feels like it. I mean, and that's not just me that thinks that. I mean, one of my closest friends is an Oilers fan, and I mean that he's had those frustrations as well. So, yeah, it's a bit puzzling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some background noise.
So, Devin, are we at a racetrack or something? With
yeah, where are you, Devin? Yeah, are you on a road somewhere?
You're muted, so there.
Yeah, I know. I'm waiting for these cars to stop to ripping down 14th Street in Calgary, just echoing throughout downtown Calgary.
Yeah, I'm thinking, what are you in Richmond, BC now, or what? Jeez. Yeah, but I mean, it's not good on Barkov for the win. It's usually been Patrice Bergeron, but good on Barkov to win. It's good on Florida to get some recognition for what's going on there, because they seem to be on the right track. Although there's some people are thinking that Joel Quenneville might be in the Kraken conversation. I think that's a bit of a reach, but we'll see.
Well, we want to take just a second here, just to say here. We want to talk about reaches. You and your talking to talk it jokes there, Kevin. You want
to? Okay.
Let's
Seattle,
please give us
Seattle is talking to talk it to talk it.
Yes.
And they talk it. I think it's brilliant.
We'd have to put it on the screen so everybody understands.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to draw that out.
So is Joel Quenneville's contract up?
Yeah, what's his status?
What's going on with that? That doesn't make much sense to me.
I feels like to me it feels like a hot take, because I just don't see Joel Quenneville leaving Florida at this particular point in time. They've built a pretty good team. You're in a great situation in terms of where your goaltending's at this particular point in time. I don't see a reason that Quenneville leaves, to me.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm just looking up to see where people are getting that from. To me, it wouldn't make much sense for Quenneville to leave there unless there's some sort of hockey reason. I mean, you're down in Florida. Your team is playing very well. They're finally buying into what he's selling within the system, and you're seeing that. So to me, that sounds just ridiculous. That he would be leaving.
But I think he has a fairly lengthy contract there with Florida, and it's one of the highest paid contracts as well. So
he's 5.2 till 2024. See, I don't think he's not going anywhere.
That's not happening.
Yeah. Not happening. Forget it. I think it will be Rick Tocchet. I'm comfortable with saying that.
Yeah, where there's smoke, there's fire. There seems to be a lot of that around Tocchet and the Kraken. So, but just expect the announcement any day now.
Yeah. Sean chimes in. All the teams in Canada right now want to Habs to win, even if fans are not, just to prove everything wrong about the North. Go Habs, go baby.
Yeah, I think there's some validity to that. Because that was, and I was one of those people as well, wanting to throw out the asterisk and this, sort of downplay it a little bit. I mean, Habs haven't won the series yet, but they've certainly shown that, throughout the regular season and then 2 rounds of playoffs against strong teams, and then now being ready to go at this phase of it and still, looking like they belong there, kind of quiets that discussion down a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I personally, I would like to see them do well, but I don't want them win the cup. I really don't. I'm sorry, Sean. I'm not on the same page as you.
All right, so you're being petty then, because you're a Leaf fan.
Well, sure. If you want to call it petty, yeah, all right.
Yeah, I honestly could not care less which of the four win. I mean, I think by default, I mean, Tampa just won last year, so something new would be nice there. The Islanders are likable. Vegas, I could take the route of, well, they just came into the league. Screw Vegas. They're deep all the time to beat the Canucks last year. And it's still an impressive veteran group they've got there with some quality guys. So nothing against Vegas per se. And in Montreal, I mean, I'm not somebody that's like, oh, well, I want my team to end the Canadian Cup drought, not that team. I don't, I'm not feeling that way. If the Habs were to go all the way and win it, it'll be a well-earned Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I'm go ahead, Devin.
Just about, it's not so much about the team. It's just the GM of the team, Marc Bergevin. I'm not a fan of him. I think that the fact that he was voted for best coach of the year,
GM
Jack
of the year,
Adams, or sorry,
GM,
not Jack Adams. It just baffles me, honestly. I don't think, like, halfway through the year we're asking ourselves and questioning whether or not he was on the hot seat. So how the hell is he getting votes?
Well, I think it comes down to the fact that other franchises and management groups kind of looked at this season and said, it's a bit of an odd year. We're not going to do anything rash. I think both Edmonton and Vancouver are in that category. And then other teams said, no, we're this year is as important as any other, and I'm going to be active and make moves to improve this team. And the results for Marc Bergevin are indeed that he improved the team. So
just by squeaking in.
Yeah, well, the problem with it is that I don't think there's I could be wrong on this, but I don't think that it's voted on and finalized and that's it at the end of the regular season like a lot of the other votes. I think there's still the first couple of rounds influences the process. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of slam dunk at this point. If you're going to factor in the first couple of rounds, I mean, upsetting Toronto and coming back from 3-1 down and all that.
Yeah. I guess I think it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you on that because that was a weird one. I mean, Lou Lamoriello, the Islanders finished 4th. Barry Zito, the Panthers. I mean, I can see why, but it feels weird to me.
So then, who's your front runner there, Kev?
Yeah, see, this is the thing. If you say, well, Marc Bergevin shouldn't be the general manager of the year, who?
Out of the three, or who would I give it to overall?
Well, out of the three.
Out of the three, I probably would have to. Actually, it's okay. I'll make a pro and a con for each here quickly. Bergevin, he made a lot of acquisitions, but I can't get past that Josh Anderson salary. I think that is just, to me, that's going to be an anchor going forward. Zito, yeah, the Panthers certainly improved. It was a very toxic situation in Florida, but that Bobrovsky contract and what happened to Bobrovsky, that I struggle with. And the Islanders finished 4th. And I know it's a tough division, but the Islanders finished 4th. It's hard for me to sit and look at that and say, like, I don't know honestly, I think the award should go to Joe Sakic. That would be my vote.
I mean, not a bad choice there, I guess, but he already had a pretty good team last year. He made some tweaks this year.
But I mean, with GMs, it's not. Maybe it's.
Well, it says GM of the year. It's not GM of the last few years, Kevin. I mean, it's right.
But a lot of what the work that's done for the GM is years and is building up, and sometimes it's even work from the former GM that has been done.
Yeah, it is kind of. I mean, the fact that there is a general manager.
Oh, mute, cut off.
Oh, I cut myself. Oh, just the fact that there is a general manager of the year award at all is a bit silly, I think, but
yeah, for me, it's Zito for the W for GM of the year. I just think that maybe the fact that nothing's really happened there have a bit of a bias within my head about it. But bringing in Sam Bennett, getting Verhaeghe, from just basically off the heap of nothing pretty much, and what he amounted to be. And yes, he's surrounded by good players, but I think overall, to me, that makes the most sense.
Yeah. Jean-Guy Solier, morning. Good morning. Sean, again. Until the Leafs trade Matthews when he's gone to 3 years anyway, get a team that can stay together. Other than 1 year, 9 players out of every year, 9 players in, you can't have a winning team.
Yeah, so Sean's concerned there's too much turnover. I mean, I'm a believer that stability is the way to go. I'm not sure about having huge turnover, but then you look at the Canadiens and how many changes they've made, and look where they're at right now.
Yeah. And our biggest Cole Caulfield fan, Kate Barry.
Surprised it took you so long to come on there, Kate. I was expecting
what's going on, Kate?
Flood us.
Wisconsin. It's what, 12? You got to get up a little earlier.
12. The morning's the best time of the day. Let's not waste it.
Which we'll touch on one more topic here, and this is from Kevin Weeks, and just it adds to another crazy story of the off season that we're going to have. And I mean, I have no doubt to doubt Kevin Weeks, but as of now, talks with likely Rookie of the Year Kaprizov and the Minnesota Wild have gone cold. My understanding he's in Moscow, and I believe CSKA is interested in signing him for KHL in the Olympics.
Wow.
Some talk in Minnesota from Minnesota circles that if they're in on Jack Eichel, Kaprizov could be going the other way. That to me. I mean, what Kaprizov brought to the Minnesota Wild, that's not something you want to quickly give up.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody know how old Kaprizov is? I know he's a bit older. He's 24. So he's still, I guess, within that that window of being in his prime, if you will. But I don't know if that's depending on what Buffalo is looking for and wanting to do within the next few years. I don't know if Kaprizov would be a good fit per se, but if Kaprizov decides to go back to the KHL, what a loss that would be!
Devastating.
It'd be crazy, especially with the old adage of Minnesota hockey, the Minnesota Wild being a boring team. They have been a boring team, and ever since Gabrick's been gone, they really haven't had that number one superstar. And I think that if I'm Bill Guerin, I'm trying real hard to make sure that Kaprizov stays.
Yeah, I mean, anytime something like this comes out, it's leaked to the media. It seems like a bit of a negotiation tactic. Some posturing. So, I mean, I think I would be pretty stunned if they can't get a deal done with the Wild and he doesn't come back and he heads home to Russia. But, the threat is there. So the Wild have their hands full trying to make that happen.
Yeah. Does it make sense for the Wild to be in on this Jack Eichel thing?
No, I don't think so. What's their cap situation is my other question. Because they do have Parise still up there for a bit. They just signed Jared Spurgeon and Brodin last year, I believe. They have a few big contracts there that I don't know if they'd be able to make it work. And as far as for Buffalo to retain some salary over there as well, because I would assume that there would have to be a 1-for-1 kind of a trade as far as cap goes.
You have to raise the question too. Do the Wild even want him?
Well, here's the cap spaces: 22,081,411. You have 2 first-round picks this year, 2 third-round picks this year.
So you think they have the capital there in their system to make that trade happen?
I think they have the picks. I don't know if they have the players.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Well,
Yeah, Buffalo would be looking for like immediate NHL roster help if they're going to deal Eichel, right? Have to assume that.
yeah,
well, it
okay.
really depends on the direction of the team and where they want to be going. Because you do have Kaprizov to sign, you have Fiala to sign, especially on the year that he had. He's going to get a big bump. He's an RFA. Joel Eriksson Ek is a RFA as well. So yes, they do have 22 million projected cap space as of right now for next year. But bringing over a Jack Eichel, that reduces it straight in half.
Yeah, and you got a lot of players to still sign.
Yeah, I don't. I can see why the Wild are interested, but I mean, it's like not like you shouldn't be. I'm not saying you should not be interested in Jack Eichel, but I just don't think that I don't think they have the pieces in place to make that trade possibly work.
Mm-hmm.
They might have a good option there as far as the pieces go, but like the matter, like if you really think about it, I can almost guarantee you that Anaheim would be chucking a better offer within there, and that seems to be the front runner right now.
Yeah. Interestingly enough.
We were just talking about awards. Should tip our cap to Rod Brindamore, winner of the Jack Adams Award. I don't know if you guys have talked about this on the pod here already, but I guess we shouldn't be too surprised what a run he's been on with the Carolina Hurricanes. And I just love the social media that the Hurricanes do with him and the clips that they get out there and how genuine it is and how family they talk about all being a big family there. Rod's great BC guy. So wanted to get that in. Yeah,
he was my vote. For me, I thought just what he's done with the identity of the Carolina Hurricanes.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's been part of that bunch of jerks. It's that organization. You're right. The Carolina Hurricanes are a fun team. Like they are one of the funner teams in the National Hockey League. Like when they win, it's fun. They make everything just sort of like, it makes you feel like a kid in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know.
Yeah,
definitely not a stuffy bunch there. Let's put it that way.
No, and I mean they're a bunch of jerks. They do the storm surge. It is about fun there, and it's not a traditional hockey market. Because if you're doing a storm surge anywhere else within a quote unquote hockey market, it probably wouldn't be received as well as it is down there. And the Canes fans are good fans. So it kind of just that whole organization had a bit of a black eye because of the new owner coming in being hands-on, but they've seemed to make it work.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I wanted to finally touch on this. I just wanted to get this tweet out too here. Let me make sure that I find it as I there it is. Sorry, I wanted to make sure it's the right one, so I am kind of running McLeaning this, but it's good. Chris Snow tweeted this out this morning, and for those who don't know, he's the assistant general manager for the Calgary Flames. He's fighting ALS. June 17, 2019, diagnosed with an aggressive genetic type of ALS and given 1 year to live. June 17, 2020, kicked a 43-yard field goal. June 17, 2020, first hole, Mickelson NGC, useless right hand. 3 years since I stood on a tee box, 265 yards dead center, played all 18. I just think that's awesome.
It is.
It's great to hear. I congratulations to Chris. And,
265 dead center is a challenge for many amateur golfers, and he's doing it with one useless hand. Bravo to that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah, I lucky to get it 2.65, so let alone 265. So, yeah. By the way, just a teaser. Keep an eye out for a future golf appearance of the Hockey Podcast. Is that fair to tease?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we got to get it all worked out with Chris and Sean and who's playing and who's not playing. But looks like we're on track for being able to travel on July the 1st or thereafter. And looking forward to the day where we can all get together again and perhaps get some golf in. And the hilarity that will ensue is something I'm much looking forward to.
Man, yeah, and the amount of alcohol consumed as well is going to be up there.
That's got to
sure.
be my advantage if I can keep it to 2 or 3 in a round. You guys
True.
are having, you guys are maybe not as disciplined. I might have a fighting chance here.
Well, I mean, I shot a 100 the other day, and that's my worst round in 3 years. So it's, you do have a fighting chance right now.
I got a long way to go to get below 100 here, but getting closer.
Yeah,
it's exciting. See if we can do it today.
There, we'll wrap it up here, but before we do, a couple of quick comments, since you won't call them me. Jean-Guy Chaulier, you said my name right, Kevin. Impressed?
Yes.
Good thing I wasn't trying to say your name because it wouldn't work out.
Yeah. But don't worry, I can't do Casey Kazikas. See, so we balance that out. Yeah. I mean, I have a diploma from BCIT now, so I'm, I guess, an official professional broadcaster.
Yes. Yes. Welcome to the club.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Kevin.
Yeah. Finally, one from Sean here. The difference is four players, 40 million how they brought in. 1 D at 2 fourth line, 1 on the second. The type of players the Leafs can't play defensive hockey. Keep them 4 together.
Throwing darts there, Sean. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at some point, both not just for the Leaf fan base, but for others, if you keep glorifying scoring chases during the regular season and sellies and highlights, I think in some ways that kind of enables the organization to just kind of keep taking that approach and selling that to fans as opposed to winning. For me, I like winning in the playoffs. All that other stuff is secondary.
Yeah, as Milan Lucic said in the offseason, if you're focused on individual stats, you'll get your individual stats, and you're not going to be playing at this time of year. So, yeah, it's not about the Art Ross Trophy. Edmonton Oilers. Excuse me. Oh, sorry. I
don't want this to drag on to another 25 minutes.
No. I'll just leave it. Let's leave
where we stand on that.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up here. How do we follow everyone?
I'm on Twitter at TNoble, TNOBLE.
I am at Gordhouse09 on Twitter.
Sean is Beardy Canuck 03. Chris is Schneid's SCHNEIDZ. KEVOLE podcast _hockey. Facebook.com The Hockey Podcast. YouTube.com The Hockey Podcast. We're back tomorrow for our 11 o'clock Pacific, 12 o'clock episode. Sean and Chris will be back. Tyler is out golfing tomorrow. So
no, actually, tomorrow. So golf today. Tomorrow, motorcycle ride with the Pops. It's Father's Day. We've got to get one in. We haven't been out. See if I can convince him to make a trip out to Prince Rupert here. That'd be really nice. The weather is shaping up to be a beautiful day for it.
Okay. Well, there we go. All right. And so we will talk tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.